All right, we need to have a serious discussion about Star Wars Battlefront 2. For those of you out of the loop, this is absolute insanity. I highly recommend you go to the Star Wars Battlefront subreddit, reddit.com/r/Star Wars Battlefront. It is on fire right now, to say the least. The Star Wars Battlefront community is up in arms over primarily loot boxes in the game. EA is known to force loot boxes and pay-to-win microtransactions into games, but this might be some of the worst of it. Based on in-game currency earnings per game, people have calculated that it'll take over 40 hours of game time to unlock new heroes. These heroes include Darth Vader, Luke, characters you really want to play as in this universe. Even the main character in the campaign of the game is locked. So ideally, EA wants you to spend real-world money to buy crates, to have a chance at getting more stuff and leveling up faster, etc., etc., etc. This idea isn't new, but it's just pretty slimy this time around. It's just really, really in there. The problem is the game is really good otherwise. The campaign is awesome so far. I've been having a blast in multiplayer. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous game. Incredibly optimized. One of the best looking, most well-optimized games ever made. But this can't be supported. This whole kerfluffle has spawned a lot of discussion in the game industry. An official response from one of the publishers of the game is now the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. It has been downvoted almost 500,000 times. It's a very generic response. It's not inherently evil of a response, and I know the guy who actually was behind it. It's a relatively typical PR move. It was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. He knew that as you reply, you're still just going to get downvoted. Unless they, scrapped everything there, which they weren't going to do, they're just going to get trashed. Now, I'm certainly a little more open-minded than most people when it comes to microtransactions. Games cost a lot to make. Back in the day, as teams of 10, Doom was made by just a handful of people. Now there are a lot of salaries to pay. And it's a very competitive market as well. People tend to forget that. If there were only Call of Duty and Halo coming out every year, everyone's going to buy them, you're fine. But a game like Titanfall proves that's just not the case. Titanfall is an incredible game with a lot of money that went into it that people just didn't play. Very, very strong competition out there. And so it makes sense that companies will want to make money after the fact via alternate transactions, whether that's microtransactions, whether that's paid DLC, season passes, etc. The price of a game hasn't really gone up in a while, but the economy has been getting worse in that sense. Game price hasn't adjusted for that, and I think we're long overdue for that to happen. I don't necessarily want it to happen. That's the thing, is that I personally would have that trade-off. I'd be like, yeah, I would spend more on games to make sure they're all, full. I can just have everything, and I unlock them in game. We never have to deal with microtransactions again. But for the kid out there, who gets maybe one game a year, that's not as feasible. He can ignore those microtransactions and still get that game, but maybe that won't be possible if the game is more expensive. That being said, in the short term, and I had a little rant about this on Twitter, I think we need to compromise somehow as a gaming community. I don't think we're going to get rid of microtransactions, of paid DLC and stuff just yet. I think we need to come up with some kind of alternative that we can all agree on. And that's the discussion I think is worth having an open mind about. Personally, I'm even down for a well thought out, well done microtransaction system. Cosmetic only. I think Overwatch does it pretty well. Most people I know have never bought an Overwatch crate. I never have either. And yet, I've pretty much unlocked the things I want to unlock. You grind out for it, and it's still fun to do. It helps that it is a very good game, great developers, great community, but they are raking in money from these transactions from people who still want to spend the money. This allows them to feed it back into the game, to develop new great content, to do the Overwatch leagues, to have all of that going. They have this alternate source of income rather than the first purchase. Compared to other forms of entertainment, video games are an absolute steal. When you log hundreds of hours in Skyrim and you're playing PUBG all night long, every night. I mean, a movie, you go out to a movie with another person and you foot that bill? Oh, God, it's expensive. I do think developers should be supported, and I do think they should make more money, but how we do that is a point of contention. It's a hard thing to figure out. And that's a discussion I think is worth having, even in the comments of this video. I'd love to discuss that with everybody. There are too many people who are just hard line in the sand, and I don't think that gets us anywhere. Well, but in the old days, it was like this. Well, it's not the old days. That's a fact. We got to stop eating those member berries. Times change, things change, the economy changes. We need to come up with some kind of middle ground here. At least in the short term, again, ideally, we will get rid of microtransactions. People always misconstrue this for me saying, I like microtransactions. No, God, no. Microtransactions are not a good thing. There's not much good about them at all, other than the developers get paid. And I want to support developers who make my favorite games. Otherwise, they're not very consumer friendly. In fact, they're the opposite. They're against consumers. When this discussion comes up, people often come back by saying, oh, well, what about Mario games? That is a very specific example, for one, a game that is guaranteed to do well. You know it's going to do well. And it's also Nintendo, and they have a stupid amount of cash. They just got, like, that's a real thing. They just have vaults of cash that's why they can just take all these crazy risks and they don't even care. They can do what they want forever because they're loaded. But this also reinforces my point that nothing is just black and white. There are some games that can get away with that. There are some games that really can't. There are some games that work great on the free-to-play model. I think of Warframe. Warframe is a great example of a game that kills it on the free-to-play model. I personally don't know or think that their system is perfect, because I feel like you have to grind way too long to get anything, but it is a free game, and it is a very, very, very high-quality game for a free game. If you haven't played Warframe, I highly recommend checking it out. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, I'd love to engage in this discussion. I just want more people to be open-minded about this idea rather than just, splitting it down the middle and saying it has to be this way or it was this way, and so that's how it is. We gotta be a little more open-minded about it and just think rationally and don't think with your emotions. It's hard. I know it's hard. Now, of course, a lot of people are boycotting Battlefront, and I think that's a good thing. This whole situation is very important. The outcome of this will change the game industry. I'm saying this right now. It has already changed the game industry. I have a lot of friends in various companies around the industry, and I'm talking to all of them right now in Facebook combos and such about this, and everyone is talking about it. Everyone is aware of this. This is important. The outcome of this will be very important. If this doesn't sell well, if people really reject this, it will change things. Will it get rid of all post-launch transactions? No, that is not what the outcome of this is going to be. The outcome is going to be different forms of it, whether that's more paid DLC, whether that's upping base price. It doesn't seem likely to me that everything's just going to go away just like that. That's not the case. But it's going to change, and hopefully for the better, which is again why we need to have the discussion now on what we are okay with. We're not all going to agree, but we need to talk about what kind of transactions are more okay than these kind of microtransactions, than these kind of 40-hour grind. You need to purchase these crates to get the main characters in the game things. We got to get rid of that. That's not a good thing. That's anti-consumer. So what's the alternative? Pitch it up. And no, the alternative is not getting rid of them entirely. Not yet, not necessarily. Not for all games. Having a good microtransaction system or a good alternate transaction system, I think everybody can win with that. And I'm just going to keep throwing out Overwatch because I think Overwatch does it pretty well. And this is primarily a Halo channel, and I think Halo 5 almost got it. But almost isn't good enough. Games have to nail this. If they're going to have microtransactions, they've got to do it right. And I stick by microtransactions should be cosmetic microtransactions. There are microtransactions in the new Assassin's Creed game. A lot of people were surprised to even hear that, and I got some people being concerned about it. But you know what it is? You can buy yourself a unicorn. With as far as I'm aware, no different stats. It's just a unicorn. So your horse is a unicorn. Like, that is the microtransaction. But you know what? Hell yeah. From me, personally, you know what? If I'm enjoying this game, and I am, new Assassin's Creed's dope. You guys should get it. It's really, really good. Would I drop $5 on a unicorn? Yeah, you bet your ass I will. It's these simple things. That changes nothing. That's cosmetic. If anything, it's dumb, right? But I'm okay with that. If the developers get more money out of that, and it leads to them making greater games, better experiences, awesome. In the case of Halo, Halo's done some interesting things too, in terms of releasing team rec packs, where HCS teams and players get a cut, and they actually have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's awesome. Rec packs that go to charity. You know what? I'm totally behind that kind of stuff. Any kind of money I put in after the fact should directly and obviously, transparently go to something great. It should fund a prize pool. It should support a team. I don't want to line the pockets of some EA exec who will then go on to ruin the next Star Wars game. As a final note here, a lot of the DICE and EA developers have been getting death threats, have been getting absolutely attacked and humiliated on the internet. And this is not okay. Guys, at the end of the day, this is a video game. This is insane that it's got to this level. Yes, we can all be vocal and constructive in our criticism of something we don't like in a game. Death threats, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and it's the lowest of lows. If you know anyone who's doing this, if you're doing this yourself, stop it. I don't think you realize what you're doing. Stop your friends from doing that kind of thing. That's not a friend you want to have. While I was editing this video, EA released a statement regarding all of this. They've reduced the amount of credits required to unlock top heroes by 75%. Why did they do this? Not because of death threats, obviously because of the community going crazy they had to. This certainly helps and it's a step in the right direction, but note the first intention was malicious. All of this wouldn't have had to happen if they didn't start on such a bad foot. Hopefully we've all learned a valuable lesson here, but something tells me we haven't. Thank you so much for watching. I certainly look forward to your comments. I hope they're not too brutal. There are discussions to be had. This is not a black or white issue, but this whole Battlefront 2 situation will and has changed the game industry forever. Thanks for watching.